Stupid fuck. The final target is Zeus having sex with an Earth female in a typical encounter for such things.
And she was thunderstruck.
No, that's the first one. First is Zeus at the peak of his power, firing his thunderbolts. Zeus was nothing more than a very sick criminal. Think of him as an extraterrestrial version of a Nazi Gestapo leader. Direct quote. Okay. Anyway.
Welcome to Two Dads Talking, where we picked up in the middle of all of everything. That was great.
I can't. I'm like I said, this is going to be really good or really bad. I might have a stroke on this episode. I know I've threatened such things before, but there is so much wow. And I think what we're going to talk about tonight.
We haven't recorded in about 3 weeks, and I think we're going to come back with a furious, thunderous.
Stop it.
Sorry,
a thunderclap, Tom.
Yes. Oh man, can Zeus pass along STDs? Because that would be called the thunderclap, right?
Pass along something.
Not just a clap, it's the thunderclap. We're going to talk about some really out there, interesting stuff tonight. I'm going to get through a list of essentially what grinds my gears that I sent to Doug in a text message. We're going to talk about a non-sponsor, and then we're going to get to really fun stuff like Zeus rebranding himself from a serial rapist into a benefactor of humankind as a Greek god. It's going to be a fun talk tonight.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
this is one of those things where I can't even control myself. Like my brain is awash. I don't even know where to start. I hope Tom is my little Virgil Hell muse through all of this.
I will lead you through the 9 levels. I am still sick. Breathing is still hard, and I will still be, probably falling into lots of spontaneous coughing fits. So I will just continue to mute myself when I do and let Doug carry the torch when that happens.
Yeah, hopefully.
But hopefully by next week I'll be a little bit better. It's been a month now, so you'd think I'd be over this thing eventually. Let's have a little talk about one of our favorite non-sponsors, shall we?
You mean your favorite non-sponsor?
Yeah, let's talk about Freedom Mortgage for just a minute here. Got to tell you, the hits just keep coming with Freedom Mortgage. This company its ineptitude continues to rise.
Platinum album.
Yeah, they've gone like triple platinum here. So if you missed the previous episode where I ranted and railed, episodes where I ranted and railed against Freedom Mortgage, the very basic summation, the TLDR, is don't use Freedom Mortgage for your mortgage needs. They're awful. They're awful on every level of the game. We use them not because we want to. When we bought our house, we wanted to assume the previous owner's mortgage because it was at a 2.75% interest rate. And that's literally less than half of what the current mortgage rate is. So using a VA benefit, we assumed their mortgage. And it was through Freedom Mortgage, and they warned us that they were not the best company to work with, but they weren't the worst.
Wait, you didn't say this before. They're like, hey, happy to see you. By the way, it's going to be a rocky ride. Get ready.
It wasn't quite that on the nose. It was more when we had problems with the closing because they screwed up our closing and we missed it by multiple weeks and they kept pushing things back. I reached out to the seller at that point and he was like, yeah, they're not the best. They're not the worst, but they're not the best. We've had some problems with them, is how he kind of phrased it. And in their defense, most of our issues seem to arise from the fact that we assumed someone else's loan, which is not a particularly common thing that happens.
No.
And so maybe that's part of the problem here is they're just not used to handling this. But you would think that a company that's been around for 20 plus years that claims to be a company for veterans, a benefactor of veterans and there for the veteran, would know how to navigate the benefits of the veteran VA loan. They would figure out how to handle this. They still, about 9 months after we bought the house, have not been able to remove the other people's name from the mortgage completely. Their name is still listed on our mortgage. They're listed as non-mortgage participants or some nonsense, but they still get our mail and we still get their mail, and they've moved to North Carolina, which makes it really fun when they're like, hey, we got mail for you somehow. That makes no sense to us. So they still get our mail at their new home in North Carolina. We live in Connecticut, by the way. We still get mail for them. And the really fun thing is Freedom Mortgage has not been able to give us access to online banking. because they can't reassign the mortgage number to our names and put our names on it and give us a login. And when I've talked to them about this and explained that it is 2025, that everybody can change credentials to log on to an account, they explain they are not technologically capable of removing the other people's names and putting ours on it to give us access to online banking. So every month, I have to call the phone number and process our payment, our mortgage payment, manually over the phone, punching buttons to enter my bank account, like the whole bit. It's like an 8-minute process every freaking month to pay my mortgage. They cannot automatically deduct from our accounts. They can't do an automatic ACH withdrawal because,
The,
again, they don't have that capability, is the word that they used. We can't get a log on to the app to pay it online. I'm sorry, through the app, and we can't get a log on to do it through the computer online. We can't view our balance at any point in time. The only way for me to view my balance is to call them and go through the manual prompting and check the balance of the mortgage on my house, or to wait until I get a monthly statement and trust what the monthly statement says. So there's no way for me to like see how much equity I have in my home on the drop of a dime unless I want to call and spend 6 minutes on the phone pushing buttons through the friggin' automated thing. So all this is fine. All this is manageable. Like if you're telling me it's 2025 and you've been around since 1980 something, and you're not technologically capable of changing credentials for a login,
this is how they did payments in the 80s.
right? This is exactly right. Okay, I can
Do you walk
accept.
in and they have one of those old knuckle busters where they go?
Oh, there's no walking in. Their headquarters is like in the middle of Indiana, and all their offices are in like Florida, and 100% of their staff work from home. There's no actual like anywhere I could walk in to deal with them. There's not. That's part of what makes this so difficult.
New business idea.
Yeah, right.
Start a bank.
Yep.
Couple of remote people, as long as you use it correctly, you could probably outperform these people.
It turns out you can manage a 1.2 star rating on Google and not actually help anybody and still be a multi-million-dollar business. So if you want to tell me that they can't do all this because it's such an uncommon thing and they just haven't invested the money to figure it out, I think that's dumb and stupid, but okay, I get that. We recently had to pay our property taxes on the home. Now, my service-connected disability grants me a bigger credit toward my property taxes, a bigger discount than what the previous owner had. He was active duty. He got some small percentage of a discount because he was an active duty guy. My service-connected disability rating gets me a much larger percentage. So we pay less in property taxes than he did. Well, because they carried over the other mortgage, we still paid his property taxes. That's what we've been making our payments for every month into escrow, is to pay. So I'm going to make up numbers, so I'm not using real numbers here. But say his taxes annually were $10,000, just to make math easy. His
100.
taxes were $10,000. Mine would be about $5,000. It's about half of what he was paying. They're still charging our escrow as though we have to pay $10,000. So they just made the first payment on this. And it turns out they've already taken enough out of our escrow account. Like they've already built up our escrow enough to pay for an
need to take
entire
any more
year.
for the next year. Yeah.
Right. We've already got
That's
an entire
minimums.
year's worth. Yep. But they paid the 6-month mark. And I realized, oh, wow, they're taking way too much. Like we're paying on our mortgage every month about $400 too much every month, which adds up. That's a significant amount of money, right?
Just imagine if your mortgage transferred and they had to refund your escrow.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to eventually refund the overpayment. That's how that works. Like eventually they have to pay what the overbalance is, right? I don't know how long that takes, but
I don't think you're ever going to get it.
oh, it's not going to sit in escrow forever. We're going to work this out, believe me. So we're paying about $400 a month more than we need to based on our property tax adjustment. And I realized this and went, okay, well, I should call them. I've already called the town to get the assessment redone because they didn't have my disability rating in, and now they do, so obviously they fixed it. I called Freedom Mortgage, and I said, hey, can I get someone in your escrow department? And I got transferred 3 times before I got to somebody who could understand what I was talking about. And then that person finally got me to escrow. But the first 3 transfers I had, nobody could understand why I wanted to talk to someone in escrow or just to transfer me there. So I've already been transferred 4 times before I get there. I get someone on escrow and I explained the situation. And she was lovely, but also frustrating, very polite. She says, yeah, I understand what you're telling me. I understand that you're telling me you're paying too much toward the escrow. And I can see here the distributions that have been made I see what was paid in January based on the previous owner's property taxes. And I see that you just paid about half of that for yours. Like, I understand that you're paying less. But in order for me to adjust that on what your monthly bill is, I need you to provide proof to me that your tax bill is lower. I said, well, you just said you can see the payments, right? She said, yes. I said, when you make that payment, you get a bill from the town I live in, and you see the bill and you pay what they tell you to pay, right? She said, well, yes. I said, okay, well, then that should be what you need to see. That's the proof. Like, they split it in half. So what we paid is 50%, and I got to double, you take that and we'll pay that again in January, and that's our annual. She said, right, but I need proof that that's your tax rate. I said, so the bill that my town sent you doesn't count as proof as what my payment is? And she said, no, what I need is for them to do a tax assessment. I said, right, they did. That's why they're charging me half now of what they charged in January, because they did the tax assessment and they adjusted it. She said, right, I need them to do a tax assessment and adjust it and send that to me.
But but but
Yeah, keep going. Yep.
this is
This is
this
the
is
loop
like
that we were in.
this is like that comedian that's like needs some proof of whatever his like license to get a renewal, and she needs proof, and he's like, I don't have it, and she goes, well, we can send you a copy if you need one, and then you can turn it into us.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Like,
So I said to her, you can't just use the bill from the town as proof. She says, no, what you can do is you can go get that printed out and you can submit it to us. But you must have already received it from the town because you already paid, right?
but
So you received it. And she said, yes, but you need to get it from the town and submit it to us.
I actually ran into this with a bank one time. They needed us to print it out and bring it in, even though they could pull it up on their computer and theoretically print it out, because they had some policy about how it had to come in externally for their own like risk or whatever. Like, that way it's not their fault if something's wrong or whatever. And it's like, but
Sure. But they've already received
like,
this externally from my town because they paid the
right,
bill when the town sent them the bill.
right.
So they've already received it from the people they need me to go get it from.
And a lot of tax bills list out all the millage and the charges and they're like, it's all like there. Yeah.
Right. So I'm frustrated, but okay, fine. So I will go get this. How do I get this to you? Can I fax this to you? Can I email it to you? Can you send me an email so that I can email this to you? No, that doesn't work. You have to upload it through the portal. I said, okay, I don't have access to the portal. Well, everyone has access to the portal. No, I don't. You guys have tried and I've been fighting for this for months. And I'm told that you're technologically not capable of getting me access to that. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, I assumed a loan, and I walk her through it. She goes, well, everybody has access to the portal. I said, okay, why don't we try doing the whole login thing together? Like, we can try that and I can show you. And then finally she puts me on hold and talks to someone and comes back and says, oh, no, I talked to such and such. Turns out you don't have access to the portal. So what you need to do, instead of doing it through the app, is go online and upload it online. You just told me that you verified I can't access the portal, so I can't do it online. Oh, that's right. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So, okay. So we've agreed I can't do this online. So now, can you send me an email and I can submit it? I can email it to you or whoever the right person is. No, we don't accept forms via email.
This is but I did have breakfast this morning person.
Right. Yes. So you don't accept forms over email. No, we don't do that. But what you can do is you can get a certified copy from your town and you can mail it to us. Okay, can I just fax it to you? Can we do that? No, you can't fax this. We don't accept it via fax. You have to mail it to us. Okay, so it's 2025 and everything we're doing is digital. And what you're telling me is that the only way for me to get a document to you so that you can ethically and responsibly and correctly manage my money,
other than the portal,
is to actually put it in an envelope with a stamp and mail it to you and trust that it's going to get to you and that you're going to notify me and you're going to do the right thing with this.
The hilarious part is that a fax is not good, but a portal, which would require scanning and sending something,
yep,
is okay.
Oh, the contradictions abound, my friend. This is a Seinfeld episode that I wish he had written. This is insane. So I said, yeah, okay. She goes, yeah, you got to mail it. I said, all right, fine. Then I will mail it to you. I'm in my car right now. I'm driving to pick up my kids from camp. Can you text me or email me the best address to actually send this to? Can you send me the actual address for incoming documents? Oh, no, I can't do that. Why can't you do that? Well, I can't email you or text you. I'm only here to process things over the phone. So you can't, from your company email, send me an email with the address? Like, you can't do that? No, sir, I can't do that. But I can read it to you over the phone if you want to write it down. I am driving a car to pick up my kids and I cannot write it down. Can you please email it to me or text it to my phone number?
In
No,
her
sir, I'm not
defense,
authorized to do that.
it's 2025. There are self-driving cars now. This one's on you.
I guess. So now we've determined that not only is Freedom Mortgage not technologically capable of changing login credentials when you transfer a loan for over $500,000 to someone else, they can't go ahead and change your login credentials. They can't update your tax payments based on documentation they've received from the town that does the tax assessment and sends them the bill. They can't change. They can't accept documents electronically from an email. They can't accept documents via a fax, and they are not allowed to email you information to help you mail your documentation clearly. I gotta say, I'm doubling down on Freedom Mortgage sucks. I'm really just, I want to go back and find a way to give them a lower review on Google. I really do. That's my Freedom
So,
Mortgage rant. I'm
so
done.
I'm a sick person. All I'm hearing is business opportunity, not Freedom Mortgage LLC. We do all the same stuff, but we're not them.
The beauty of that is that we would literally not have to do anything but answer a phone and piss people off. There's no actual work involved, and you can do everything Freedom Mortgage does. It's wonderful.
Oh, but that's my point, though. I feel like if you got literally the right five, like capable, understand the industry, some ability to like problem solve people, you would get more done. And as long as you have someone with even half the cojones to make business decisions like, oh, they can't get on our portal that everyone has. What's their loan with us? Oh, $500,000. Yeah, let's actually like do the work to create a whole new profile for them, something to make it work.
Yeah, why not?
Just do it. Like, it's so stupid.
All right. That's my Freedom Mortgage rant. I'm working down a checklist of things I texted Doug earlier this week.
You know?
Let's talk about autistic children, shall we?
Yes.
Let's tell a little
One
story here.
1 minute and then yes.
1 minute and then yes. We're gonna
Yes.
pause this.
Okay, thank you. Had to run a quick errand for the wifey because I am dad prime. Now we're back.
You are a good hubby. All right, so
Trying.
we're gonna take a minute to talk about autistic children here. Okay, we're gonna tell a
Kind
little.
of.
No. We're going to talk about autistic children here. It's more about their parents, but we're gonna tell a story about an autistic child that spawned this reaction from me. So, picked up my kids from camp. Went and picked up my youngest from daycare, separate school. She's only 4. She just turned 4, literally within a month. So she's barely 4. We decided we want to go to the playground and play. Everyone still has energy. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. Let's go to the playground and play. So we go to the playground, and kids are playing and having fun. The oldest 2 are playing tag with a bunch of kids on the main playground area, which is the slide and the bridge and the climby things, the playground. My youngest wants to be on the swings. So we've got her on a swing, and they've got one swing that's built like a big plastic chair. And she sits in that, and we push her in that, and it's fine. So I've got her in that thing, and I'm pushing her there, and she's having a blast. The kids are playing tag, and it's a blast. I'm watching my youngest just run laps around people that think that they're fast, and he's becoming a little cocky, like Dash from The Incredibles, and he lets them get within like an arm's reach, and then he dodges them and hits full speed in like 3 strides, and it's like, oh man, you were so close, sorry. Oh, thought you had me there, whoops. And he's taunting kids like 2 years older than him, and eventually this is going to bite my son in the butt. So if I had expected a problem to arise, and I kind of did, I thought it was going to come from my son getting a lesson and being humbled. And afterward, we had a talk about this where I explained to him that that's going to happen if he doesn't become more gracious. That's a side story. So my son's playing, my daughter's playing with them. Tag is uneventful. It's fun to watch. I'm pushing my youngest. Well, a kid walks away from the tag group who's been playing tag with them this whole time without issue. He's been playing and he's been fine. And my youngest is in the swing going, and he walks up and he walks right up to her in the swing to the point where he almost gets kicked in the head. And I have to run out in front and be like, whoa, 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 you're going to get kicked in the head, buddy. You're going to get kicked. Stop, stop, stop. And he's there with his mom, and his mom is not paying attention at all. She's just completely clueless, not paying any attention.
On her phone, kind of not paying attention.
Not even on her phone, just like kind of in her own world, spacing out, just not watching
Hmm.
her son at all.
Okay.
And so she hears me shouting and sees me dash to like grab my daughter's swing and get in between them so he doesn't get kicked. And she comes truffling over and eventually grabs the kid and grabs him by the arm and says, "No, you're going to get kicked. You have to be careful." And then she's sorry, it's time to go. Let's go. And she turns around and walks away. Doesn't have him by the hand anymore, lets him go. So my daughter's swing is mostly stopped, and I give her a little push, and she says, "No, Daddy, I want to pump my legs. I want to do it." So I let her do it on her own. No big deal. I had brought a manuscript I'm working on for a novel, and I'd brought a printed out version, and I was going through it and doing some line editing and just some basic touching base. So I let her pump her legs, and I turn around and I walk about 5 or 6 feet back to my table where my stuff was set up. And I go to sit down to go back to editing my manuscript. I haven't even sat down yet. I've literally taken 2 or 3 steps. And I turn around, and the kid walked up to the side of my daughter in the swing and just punched her in the head. Out of nowhere, no prompting, a really solid slap in my daughter's head.
Oh man.
And he pulled back to do it again. And I run up 2 steps and I literally just shoved him in the chest back. And I said in my dad voice, "No, that is not okay. Get your mother." And it was my dad voice, which is also my police voice, which is also my sergeant voice. Every single person on the playground is now looking at us. A fair amount of them saw what happened and didn't say a word and didn't go to intervene. One of them and I had a discussion afterward because she came up to me after and said, "I saw him walk up and ball his fist up and go to slap her. And I saw him doing it and just didn't believe he was going to do it." And my response was, "And you didn't say a fucking word?" Anyway, that's a whole different story about irresponsible parents. So this kid goes and tries to get around me to hit my daughter again. And I literally, and when I say this kid, I mean, he's probably 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old. Okay. So he's a kid. I put my hand on his chest and I push him back again. And I don't want to be that guy putting his hand on someone's kid. But if that kid is trying to hurt my kid, I'm going to protect my kid. This is real basic math for me. This is real simple. The
Right.
mom turns around and says, "Are you yelling at my son?" And I said, "He just cold cocked my daughter, just walked up and smacked her in the head for no reason while she's sitting in the swing." And she says, "Oh, he's autistic," and then turns around and walks away. That was her entire reaction. "Oh, he's autistic," and then turned around. So I told this kid, "Go catch up to your mom right now." And he walks away. And then I yelled at her, "Hey, we're not done. Turn around. We need to talk." And she says, "I'm not talking to you. He's autistic, and that's that." And she turned her back on me again. Now, if this had been, and I explained to my wife, I said, I wish it was a guy, because if it
Hmm.
was a guy, I could have walked up and spun the sumbitch around and said, "No, we're not done with this conversation yet." But what am I going to do with a woman who's, I don't know, 5 years younger than me, 6 years younger than me? I'm not going to put my hands on her. Like, the threat's been dealt with. The kid walked away. He's following mom now. So he's no longer a threat. And we've talked about, law enforcement, you learn to de-escalate when you can. So the threat's done. I can de-escalate there, but I'm still angry as hell. I'm still mad as hell. And it's not the kid's fault if he's autistic, and I'm not sure that he was. Because like I said, I watched him play tag perfectly fine with normal social interactions and boundary observations for probably 15 minutes with zero issues. Zero. Not one. And he was one of the kids that got taunted by my son because he couldn't catch him. And he didn't react this way then. So I watched him play for 10 to 15 minutes with perfectly normal social interactions. I didn't see any of the cues that tell me someone was on the spectrum. Granted, I'm not a professional in that regard. I don't know. But the mom's response pissed me off. And I wound up walking her off the playground, barking in her ear. "Whether or not your son is autistic, that does not give you an excuse to be a shitty parent. This is on you. Do I need to press charges, or are you going to turn around? I'll call the fucking police." And she just kept walking. And she literally did a wave where she brushed me off, waved me off, and mumbled under her breath and just walked away. And I was very tempted to call the police for a moment. I really was, just as a matter of principle. Eventually decided that I wasn't going to do that. Eventually decided that was not going to be me. And I was going to let it go and calm myself down. But the reaction pissed me off. Well, he's autistic, so it's okay. And then the refusal to talk to me really upset me. So let's have a talk about that real quick. I'm going to make my position very, very plain here and very clear. I know I'm a fairly moderate person,
This is
but
not a real discussion. It's just
okay,
a question.
this is just a
It's just
tomocracy again.
it's
Sorry.
just a it's just a question of which one of us is more extreme, honestly. I mean, remember, I'm the one who said that people who plead insanity in court should be locked away forever because your defense is, oh, they didn't know they were doing this violent thing. So you're telling me that they could actually just no actual rationale do it again? There was no actual like motive or passion or anything in here?
Yeah,
No. You're insane. You need to go away longer than the guy who did it rationally,
I don't
potentially.
disagree. Yep,
Like
I do. I
that's who
do
you're
not
talking
disagree
to.
completely. I agree with that. I just want to go out and say that if you have a child with a challenge like that, it is not an excuse for you to be less of a parent, for you to do less, for you to be a bitch. That's not what that is. Okay. And that's how I look at this. That person bitched out on being a parent right there. You didn't do the right thing. You allowed someone else's kid to be at risk. I understand I was in an angry way. And me, I'm a big guy. When I'm angry, it doesn't happen often, at least not publicly. When I'm angry, I understand why a woman a little younger than me would not want to engage with me because I can understand why I would seem threatening. But your kid slapped the shit out of my 4-year-old and you refuse to do anything about it and you refuse to talk to me about it. In hindsight, I do wish I had called the police. I really do. Just to make this a teachable moment for her. Although I doubt she would have learned anything based on her reaction. But the knee jerk reaction of, my kid's autistic, so I don't have to do anything. We thought one of our kids was on the spectrum for a while. We thought we had challenges to overcome. We braced for that. And we took that as a call for us to do better by that kid and to support that kid and to work harder with that kid. This parent did the opposite and used it as a cop out. And I was freaking lit. It's the angriest I've been in a long time. That wasn't with Freedom Mortgage.
Well, they're their own category. Ooh, Ivory Tower Doug is about to make an appearance.
Love Ivory Tower Doug. And so does
Love
Charles,
is
by
your
the way.
he's your oh Charles loves Ivory Tower
I
Doug.
get
I
text
don't know.
messages after each episode, and one of them recently was something about, Ivory Tower must be pretty tall. It was great. It made me laugh really hard.
I couldn't even tell it was Charles down there actually. No, I'm gonna make a call. This is not an autistic kid. Let's pretend the kid has something. And that something is not just being a shitty kid with no actual like true discipline structure in the home. They could actually have something. This is probably something closer to bipolar than autistic because the sudden mood changes. It's not autism is not a mood change. Autism is an engagement thing. It's an analysis thing usually. Bipolar is the emotional mood swings. So the playing games, taunting games, in one setting and nothing, and then a seemingly unprompted, suddenly violent reaction to something that wasn't deserving of it, that strikes me as more of a bipolar and or like deep-seated aggression thing. That's not autism. I don't know if it's misdiagnosed or if it's just mom dropping whatever term that she thinks will get her out of not having to talk to you.
Right.
But I would also venture to guess, honestly, that this kid does not have a father figure, at least a reliable one, around very often. Can't guarantee it, but most children, and you can fight me all you want on this, it's true. Most children that have an actual strong paternal figure around that gives a crap about the kid, they do not fly off the handle because if nothing else, I mean, people didn't like this in the past, but the wait until your father gets home line from moms, that worked.
Yep.
We all know it worked. Some of us grew up with that. So if there was a dad waiting at home to hear from mom even what you did, that your ass was going to be handed to you, you didn't do shit like that. At least once you hit like 5, 6, 7 years old and you kind of understood. And
Yep.
dad might plug your ass in a corner and you might not move for 3 hours while he chews you out at minimum. You're lucky if you just get, isolation.
Yeah. So I don't ever want to sort of assume what someone's got or what someone doesn't have. Again, I'm not a
Doesn't
professional.
matter. It
But
doesn't
I agree
matter.
with you on this case.
It
I
doesn't
don't think
matter if
this
the
kid
kid's
was autistic. I really don't. I agree
okay.
with you. I
Let's
think this
pretend
is
the
a kid
kid's
with no
super autistic.
consequences.
The kid is super Mr. Autism. Your kid still hit my kid.
Yeah.
And in a way, and this is me being different, Ivory Tower Doug, you're lucky that we're in a civilized society.
Yeah.
If this was a uncivilized society, your kid would never do that again.
That's true.
Care to guess why or
Yeah.
how?
No,
You
that's
know?
absolutely true.
Yeah. So there you go. That's see,
Anti-Darwinism here.
not a real discussion.
All right. Then I won't rant anymore about the parental failings there. I really do think this one was just copping out. I don't think there was anything wrong with her son other than, a lack of
Other than
parental
her.
influence and consequences in his life. Yeah.
Well,
Other than
and
the
you know
mom.
what? I should be okay to be fair. It's not completely fair to just broad brush and be like, mom's a shitty parent and that's why this is happening. There is actual data, actual studies, actual proof that you do need both parents for specifically for reasons like this. Boys, young men, for example, they can have a mom who exerts discipline and they still get into trouble and get into scraps and everything else because at the end of the day, mom is not the thing to emulate. Boys know from an early age that they're boys and they look to other men for how to act in certain settings. My son already does it. We catch him all the time. He's not even 2 years old yet. Something will happen. Both of us are standing there with him. He will look straight at me to see what my reaction is to whatever just happened. And it's like he's taking a cue card for how he should how he should feel about the thing. He does not do that with my wife. He loves my wife. Honestly, she's the favorite parent. Let's face it. If he's upset, it doesn't matter that I'm holding him. In fact, that might piss him off even more because he doesn't want me. But when he's thinking about what he should do, he's looking at me. We catch him doing it all the time. So she may not actually be like a really shitty parent. Maybe she was just having a day or whatever and didn't want to deal with it. And she was worried that you were going to get extra aggressive with her. But this strikes me as either she's not pulling her weight and or there's not a father figure pulling their weight. It doesn't even need to be a father figure. It can just be a strong uncle who gives a crap or an older brother who gives a crap to help with this. This is someone that does not see some other male controlling their testosterone, basically.
I feel like
Or
when you,
they're autistic and now you need to build the situation around this, the structure around it to minimize situations like this.
I feel like when you put it that way, you're actually letting her off the hook a little bit and like
I
taking
am.
some of the
That's
responsibility off her. And I
Oh,
gotta
that's my
say,
point.
sure,
That's
and
my
I get
point
that.
though. But she is still responsible if she even is remotely aware that this is a potential thing.
Yeah.
She needed to be more present and to have the quote structure around preventing something like this. She sees him coming over. She should at least be closer in case something happens if she's aware of this. If she's not aware of this, a decent human being would say, oh my gosh, get over here. I can't believe you did that. I'm so sorry. And show that you're taking control. This is obviously a repeat occurrence.
Yes. And it's
So,
obviously more about her. I feel like this tells me a lot about her parenting style, is what
yes.
it tells me a lot about, which is the bigger problem here. My mom was a single mom. I didn't have that male influence that was a positive influence in my life. And my mom managed to make it work. Now, I know, like you said, most people benefit from having both. I'm sure I would have benefited from
Oh,
having a father figure in the home.
it's possible to be a quote it's not
Yeah.
like you're screwed if you don't have one or the other
Yep.
or both or whatever, but
But I
some
feel
of
like
the
this
hills are
woman,
harder to climb.
yep, this woman used it
Yeah.
as a cop out. She used it as an
Yeah.
excuse to be like, yeah, I don't need to. I can just, he's autistic. Whoops. Responsibility's gone.
So sorry.
So sorry. So sorry. So yeah, I
Sucks to
found
be
myself
you.
talking to my wife about it. And I remember saying, like, I wish it had been a dad. I wish it had been a father there instead, because my reaction would have been different. And then my wife gave me the, oh, really? Like, you're going to go down that road. And I stopped for a minute and did some introspection and kind of expected to be like, you're right. I'm better than that. I could do better. But I didn't. I doubled down on it. I was like, no, I'm absolutely right on this one. If that was a guy, that could have been an actual conversation. I could have done something to make him stop and talk. It would have developed something. And instead, it was a woman, and I found myself powerless by someone who just wanted to cop out for parenting. Yeah, I don't know. I was
This
frustrated. I really wish it had been a dad. I really wish it had been a father. I would have
there
taken someone 6'6", 285 pounds, preferably over this woman who was half my age and weighed, a buck 60.
Yeah, because in a civilized society, you are, I don't want to say powerless, but you're sort of handicapped a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
You know,
There's
that's
nothing I can do there.
right.
I've got
That's,
everything to lose and nothing to gain in that situation.
yeah,
There's no way to win.
there's so many avenues into politically incorrect land with this. But I mean, the perfect example is sort of the C.S. Lewis quote where he talked about kind of what the function of men and women are in society, basically. And he was trying to make the case for why they're both actually really useful for a household, like their specific roles. And one thing he explicitly said was, mom is supposed to make sure the family gets what's theirs, gets what's owed to them. Dads are supposed to be the sort of like ambassador slash representative to the outside world. And so
Huh.
yeah, well, here's his example. If two kids at school get into a fight on the playground and like, one of them, they end up like breaking each other's noses or black eyes or something, mom is the one going into the principal's office being like, how are you going to fix this? How are you going to make sure this kid doesn't hit my kid again? And usually the two dads are the ones meeting being like, how are our families going to coexist after this? Dad's not going to the principal's office, but dads are usually going to each other and kind of like hashing it out, whether it's super amicable or not.
Does that
So,
dynamic still exist today, do you think? I don't think
uh,
it does.
in certain circles,
Hmm.
if we can use general language, there are subcultures and sub areas where yes, that happens all the time. Actually,
Interesting.
proud to be part of one. But
That's
and
good.
it's a surprisingly different dynamic than some other circles. But that was kind of the point he was trying to make. So for her, she's not programmed to engage. In a situation like this, you are, and you actually subconsciously prefer another male because there's kind of an expectation for him to engage too. It's a different dynamic. It's a different communication level when it's man to man versus man to woman.
I agree with that.
There's different priorities and there's different channels of communication. There's different expectations.
So we had an instance recently where a child at camp was picking on my child. Like they're friends at school. They're in the same class this upcoming year. They were in the same class last year. We've actually talked about this kid and her family on the podcast before. I don't want to throw anything out there now specifically, but we've actually talked about this family on 2 different episodes. And I'm going to put the kid's name here in the chat so you can see it and you'll probably remember. But this kid
How
started,
could I forget?
yeah. So this kid started bullying my daughter a little bit at camp. And
Oh, bad choice.
yep. And I don't have the dad's information, but I have the mom's information. Actually, my wife had it and I got it from her. But my daughter asked me to reach out to her and talk to her about this and try to find some way so that they could get along again because nothing she did worked. And in my daughter's defense, she tried. She tried to find a way to get over this and make this stop, and it just didn't work. And she told me, she goes, Daddy, I don't want to have to hit her, but I'm going to have to hit her. Can you call her mom so I don't have to hit her? And I was like, good on you for realizing that that's the next step and that we should try to avoid it. Good on you. So I texted the mom and tried to have a conversation, and she wouldn't call me back, but we did have a text conversation. So she wouldn't call me, but we did have that text. And it's a different dynamic when you're a man talking to a woman than it is if you're a man talking to a man. Because I remember having this whole conversation, and her thing was, well, I talked to my daughter and her sisters, and they told me that Alex is the one being rude. But I've got all the counselors telling me that, no, this other kid is picking on your daughter and we're trying to work on it. So she's taking the girl's sister's word over the counselors. And it was an odd conversation through text. And we figured something out and apologies were made and the kids are going to be fine. But I couldn't help but think about what a weird dynamic it was the whole time versus when I had a problem with another kid about a year ago and literally saw the dad at pickup one day and just got to talk to the dad. And we worked stuff out literally in a 10-minute conversation outside of my SUV. We were both irritated with the conversation, with what happened, but we both understood it was stupid, needed to be fixed. And we resolved it in 10 minutes of talking face to face. And there was never another problem. And I see that guy pick up once in a while now, and everything's cool. Versus this situation that was like pins and needles the whole time. It's a very different dynamic, a man approaching a woman to have this conversation than it is a man approaching a man. So there might be something to that. I'd be curious to know how a woman feels, talking to a woman versus talking to a man. If you feel like you have the upper hand talking to a man, or if you feel intimidated because he's a big man. I don't know. That seems like 100 years ago-ish to me, but I wonder how that dynamic is. And I should probably talk to my wife and get that opinion because I don't know. I felt like I was handicapped talking to a woman who wouldn't have an actual conversation with me. I felt as though she had the upper hand the whole time because she's a woman and there's a certain way I am expected to act in a civilized society toward women that doesn't exist the same way with other men. She definitely had the upper hand in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we would. It's better to hear from the ladies for something like that. I can say that I've actually had. I don't want to say like this exact conversation with my wife, but it's the dynamics are completely different. Like just for example, and this is gonna be kind of weird. I'm just gonna say it kind of the way it happened, but I discovered because we were just kind of talking a couple of weeks ago that every so often, at least earlier on in our multiple marriages, just one. Woo! Hold on. If we had like an argument, like a real argument where we're like, blah, you're stupid, like we're yelling at each other across the kitchen counter, like nothing's being thrown, nothing's happening, or whatever. It's just a loud argument.
I've never had that argument, but okay. All right.
Wait, the throwing stuff or the loud argument?
Either.
You've never had a yelling at each other argument?
No. No, we've had one real fight in 17 years
Oh,
of marriage, like
yeah, like
one,
I'm
but
the
it wasn't
serial
yelling.
killer now. You two are obviously the sociopaths.
I could be. My wife is not. My wife is way too empathic to ever be a sociopath.
That's
She's a sin swallower for everyone around her who just wants to make everyone feel better because she feels everyone's emotions. But we've had like one, maybe two fights in 17 years. Neither one involved shouting. And, the first one was 100% my fault. It was, a mistake that I made and I did something stupid and she called me out on it. And I was like, yeah, my bad. And then we moved on from it. Like,
this is an interesting dynamic because we both have the controller kind of personality and we're both the like firstborn, like kind of like we do everything ourselves, charge ahead kind of thing.
you
So
and me or you and your wife?
no, me and my wife.
Yeah, same with me and my wife. We're both firstborn. She's the
You're
oldest of five. I'm the oldest of
no,
technically
you
four.
can't tell me, but you're both controller type of personalities. I don't believe that. Anyway, we have had a couple, not too many, but a couple like real like blah kind of fights at each other. And she said one time, she was just like, a couple of those times I was scared. I was like, what do you mean? Like, she said, kind of like maybe you'll just come over and like throttle me like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, I was upset, but no, like that, there was
But
never,
yeah, that was
I,
never on the table.
I don't think you understand exactly how far away that was. Like I'm way more likely to storm out and disappear before ever doing anything like that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that was an elucidating conversation. And I asked if there was anything I did that kind of like signaled that like specifically like freaked her out. And she said, like, no, you were just loud. You were big and you were angry and you were loud. And it was just like, oh, that's the dynamic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just a bigger, louder thing, and that's not what she is. She's not the bigger, louder thing, and that's I think part of the dynamic is that an angry man to a woman can just be kind of viewed as sort of a big brute, whereas to another man, he's not a brute. He's just upset.
Yeah.
He's upset, and maybe rightfully upset. Even if he's not correct, he might have rational reasons for being upset from his end, but it's real hard to see that. And then I think I'm making a judgment call here, but men are much more about just kind of the physical if you have to be, but really we don't want to because even smaller men are capable of hurting bigger men,
Yeah.
kind of deal. And women have much more of a social dynamic, like a hierarchy kind of thing. Like they're trying to establish dominance in a different kind of way, and that's sort of what dictates the structure. Oppositely now, the same thing with this sort of dynamic, which I think maybe helps sort of paint it a little bit, was that it was a joke tweet that I saw, and it was someone was claiming that they're, at the doctor's office, she's talking to the doctor, and he goes, oh yeah, it's probably not this. And she goes, would you bet your life on that? And he goes, what? My life? And she goes, yeah, because if you're wrong and I die, are you going to be able to live with my husband killing you because of your negligence? And he just goes, yeah, I'll run the test.
Nice.
And but I sent this to my wife as a joke, and she kind of responds back, I kind of feel like that when you're standing next to me. Like I feel like if someone tries to threaten me, you're gonna like pulverize them potentially if they do that. And So it's the same kind of thing. I'm big and I'm loud and I'm like threatening in our arguments, but then also just being there, I can like pulverize another person
Yeah.
for her if she wants. And that's just kind of how men are kind of viewed through that lens from women of we are this bigger, stronger thing, and that makes us scary just kind of by our existence. Remember when you were a teenager and like you the first time you stood next to some like 6'5", like 320-pound dude and you were kind of like scared automatically, you
I
know?
can tell you exactly that moment. I
I
was,
remember mine. It was
I
in
was,
Sam's Club. This dude was a fucking monster and I was scared. And I was 16. I was like, "Hi, why am I scared? This dude is enormous. He could eat me."
oh no, I didn't have that issue. So
Ugh.
I was a junior in high school and I was going with a friend of mine. His dad had got tickets to WWF SmackDown.
Nice.
And we went to go see, like, it was Thursday night SmackDown. They had just started doing like a Thursday night promotion. And so we went there. We went to Hooters first, which blew my mind as like a junior in high school. Like, this is the greatest restaurant on earth. Why would anyone ever go anywhere else?
Oh my
And
god.
the food was good too.
Oh,
Amazingly, the
of
food was
course.
good too.
Yeah,
But
naturally.
so had a great time at Hooters with like my buddy, like it was like him and his three closest friends and his dad. And then we go and and we're at this thing. And it was cool. Like, all the wrestlers are big guys. Like, everyone that walks down, you're like, holy crap, this dude's huge. Like, that's a really big guy. But the Big Show walked down the aisle. And we were seated like
That's a
right next to the walkway.
huge dude. Yeah.
We were seated next to the walkway, like halfway down it. And even with like a slightly elevated seat, this guy walked down the aisle and was taller than me. And I remember going like, I've got like a foot to start on you, like a head start of a foot based on my seat. And he was a huge human being. And that was the first time I had ever looked at another human being and went, holy shit, I don't ever want to fight you. It was the
Yep.
first time I ever, and I remember just standing there. Everyone's cheering and screaming. And I just kept remember thinking, holy hell, this guy's a mountain. This is ridiculous. And it was terrifying. It was just, yeah, that's the first one I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was funnier. It was just this dude who worked at Sam's Club, I think. My parents were replacing their TV that finally crapped out. And they got this like, it was one of those HD, but still like tube-ish TVs with, it was still kind of super heavy. It had the backing on it.
Okay.
And so they bought it and, oh, we'll carry it out for you. Team lift, like two coworkers helping out, all that stuff.
Sure.
And the first dude shows up and he's like smaller than I am as a full grown male. I'm like 15, 16, something like that. This dude's like a little squirrely, like 5'9". Like he's a young man, but he's nothing to like, he's not scary or anything like that. He's a skinny little like squirrely dude.
Sure.
And he says, "Oh yeah, our other guy's coming. Like he'll be here in a minute." And I happened to be just looking the other way. I think I was looking at mini fridges because we were starting to think about colleges and I'm like, oh, I'm going to need a mini fridge. And I'm looking at that and I turn around and this guy's like there. And I turn around and I see his belly first. And then I look up and he's got to be like 6'5" minimum, but he is like fat. Like, Big Show's build. He's like a bigger build than Big Show and like 6'5". And,
It's a big guy.
and he had the voice like, "Oh, is this the one?" And I just remember looking up at him and instantly I almost peed myself. I was like, "Oh my God, you're enormous." He's standing right next to me and I'm not like tiny, but I'm still a teenager. That was my first experience. And
Yeah.
then we make our way out to the car and little squirrely guy is like two hands, like he's tremoring and shaking and holding on to his end of the box and trying to get it into the back of the truck. And this dude is one hand like standing there like nothing. And he's looking at this guy going, you got it, just a little bit more. Like he's coaching this guy through it who's like freaking out. We can barely hold this thing up. It was just another one of those like, man, this is a different kind of person. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I just have this theory that most women think of most men like that. They're just this bigger, stronger thing that if it just decided it didn't like you, like you're dead.
I mean, based on the man versus bear thing, like I guess that tracks,
Yeah. Funny enough, that's how men feel about bears. If it just decides if it doesn't like you, you're dead.
Accurate. All right. That was my rant on the autism doesn't give you an excuse to be a shitty parent. That's my whole rant there. I'm done with that. let's move on to my last text rant. Shitty frickin' drivers. So I'm on record on this podcast in at least 2 different episodes that I feel that Lexus and Mazda drivers are just the friggin' worst. And they're the worst in different ways, right? Like, I think the quote that I used was that Mazda drivers all think that they're Fast and the Furious, like stunt drivers. Like, they all believe that they're all Vin Diesel.
I
And
think
that,
my brother-in-law just got a new Mazda, by the way.
does he fit the profile?
No, not at all. He's like the nicest dude. He loves playing with our
You
kids.
can be a nice
just...
dude and still be that guy, though. Like, that's not, those aren't two mutually exclusive things.
I mean, I guess not, but I mean,
the Lexus thing I think is different.
His other car is like a actually pretty nice Mustang, so I don't know, maybe it tracks, but that would be just such an odd quirk for him.
All right.
I'll ask him.
All right. Well, I'm on record as saying that that's the issue with Mazda drivers, and that the issue with Lexus drivers is that they just think they're the only car on the road and everyone's supposed to bend over and like cater to them and yield to them. And they just don't realize that they're supposed to be driving in accordance with everyone else. They think the world caters to them. I'm doubling down on this one too. It is almost as though people are listening to our podcast on a much greater level than we think, and they're trying to prove me wrong. So earlier this week, I am driving to get my kids from camp. I leave work, I go home, I let the dog out, I have a coughing fit because I can't breathe. I seize up in the yard, I sit, I almost black out. It's a great time. I get in my car, I'm grumpy, okay? When I get back in my car, I'm frustrated because I'm having these breathing attacks that are just difficult to deal with, and I'm over it. It's been almost a month, and I'm freaking sick of it. Find an answer, medicine. No one can find an answer. I go to pick up my kids from camp, and I'm a little early, no big deal. There's like an hour window to pick up my kids from camp, and I'm going to be there pretty early, so it's all good. Maybe I'll take everyone to the playground again. And da-da-da-da. I'm driving down the road, and it's a 4-lane road, 2 lanes on each side, and there's a Lexus, literally one car in front of me, that is just doing its own thing. You know, it's driving 10 miles below the speed limit, then it's doing 15 above the speed limit, then it's doing 5 below the speed limit, then we're doing exactly the speed limit. Then we're doing 10 below. Then we're doing 15 above. My assumption is this person's either drunk or they're on their phone. Okay. The cop in me comes out and says, this is behavior. It's typical of an intoxicated driver or someone on their phone. But I can't get around them because there's a lot of traffic in the left lane. Eventually, this person gets over in the left lane. Okay. Cool. Traffic.
Oh, and this is a good one. You're like, okay. Like,
yeah, cool.
Bitchy Tom's about to come out.
I'm just really happy I get to get past this person. Like, I'm either they're going to get so far ahead of me they're irrelevant, or I'm going to pass them. But I'm in the right. I'm in the slow lane.
I got real excited. I'm ready.
Yep. Oh, it's going to get fun. I'm in the right lane. They're in the left lane. And they go, and their lane's going faster. So they're well ahead of me. However, we hit a traffic jam. There's a problem at the rotary, and we all hit a jam, and we slow down. And eventually I catch back up, and they turn their right turn signal on. They're trying to get in the right lane, and no one's letting them over, as you often see in traffic jams. Like, people aren't yielding to cars that want to come in lanes. This is kind of typical behavior. No one's letting the Lexus in. The Lexus eventually just decides it's going to pull into that lane, and someone is going to move out of their way. Someone's going to move out of their way. And the guy that is in the lane next to them says, not today. I'm not moving over. I'm not going onto the shoulder of the road. Like, I'm not doing it. And the Lexus pulls into this car. Whack. Right? It then goes back into its lane. And I'm going, oh, damn, I just witnessed an accident. Holy crap, that's the Lexus. I'm so happy. I am already in my head volunteering to write a statement for this police officer who's going to show up. And I am so giddy with joy that I get to witness this miraculous moment actually occur. The Lexus does it again. Whack! Pulls into them. And I can see a woman yelling and shouting, like, in the Lexus. Windows are rolled up. I can't hear anything. Her windows are rolled up. But I can see her waving her hand and yelling and shouting. And the guy in front of me is literally like, we're doing like 5 miles an hour. And he's got both his hands up in the air, like, what the fuck is going on, you know? So we all wind up pulling over. And she gets out of the car and she starts laying into this guy. And this kid is like a 17-year-old Puerto Rican kid, like really clearly an inexperienced driver. And he is mortified that this woman is like yelling at him and going off on him. And I walk up and I'm trying to calm the situation down. Like, ma'am, I saw the whole thing. I'm going to be a witness to the whole thing. You need to get back in your car. We're off the roadway. And she's going off. He should have let me over. Da, 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 going off. The kid's like, I was literally right next to you. I couldn't even see your turn signal. I had no idea you were coming over until you hit my car. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. I can't see you. How am I supposed to know you're coming over until you hit me? And he's right. There was no way he could have seen her. She was like level with his front left fender. He couldn't have seen a turn signal. And then she just hit him, and he had nowhere to go. She hit him twice. so so we're sitting there, and I'm like, "It's all right, kid. I got you. Like I'm gonna be. I got your back." And I'm blah, blah. I'm talking to him. Well, he makes a phone call. He calls his dad, and that's kind of exciting. I'm like, okay, cool. Like the kid's keeping calm. He's calling his dad. I called the police, reported the accident. She's going off because we don't need the police, and it's his fault
Yeah, of
anyway.
course we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the guy behind her, it turns out, had pulled
Is
over
she?
up further ahead. Like he had a hard time pulling over because of traffic. But he had pulled over like 50 yards, 60 yards up ahead. And he comes walking back to us. And she's going off. Like she's ripping this kid a new one and ripping me a new one. And I'm just trying to say, hey, calm the fuck down. Like you're the one in the wrong here. And I witnessed it. And she goes off with, you don't know who I am and who my husband is. They're not going to care what you have to say because you need to know who my husband is. And she threw some name out I didn't know. Well, this gentleman comes walking down the road who had pulled off way ahead. He was behind her when this happened, so he was next to me. And he says, if everyone could just calm down and wait for the police, I'm an Uber driver and I had my dash cam on the whole time.
Oh,
I was so happy, Doug. I was so very happy. I said, hey, can I just...
what did her face say?
Oh,
Do when
nothing. She got in the car and called someone and shut right the hell up. Like, didn't say another word. I
Yep,
said, hey,
she
would
was
you mind if I
trying to
just...
Karen her way out of it. And
I
then,
guess.
yeah.
I was like, can I just see your footage real quick? Because if you don't need me here, I'd like to go pick up my kids. But if it doesn't capture the whole thing, I want to make sure I can give a statement because this kid did nothing wrong. And the guy says, oh, yeah, sure. So I walk up the road to his car and we watch his whole dash cam footage. And it's all right there. Pristine, clear, 1080 HP, beautiful, high definition. It's sexy. Okay, we're good. Police officer had arrived by the time I left. And the kid says, oh, this guy's going to give me a statement. He saw the whole thing. He's a witness. And I said, officer, let me give you my number in case you need it. But this gentleman caught it all on camera and is willing to share the video. I'm just going to go get my kids if that's okay. Left him my phone number. Never got a phone call. I was so happy. But it was a Lexus driver literally just expecting someone to get out of her way. The kid had no idea. And she just felt so entitled that she literally pulled her car into him and bumped him not once, twice. Like, what the hell? So I texted Doug at my list of things to talk about this week, and I'm like, fucking Lexus drivers, man. It's pretty fresh on my mind. They're the worst. They're the absolute worst.
No, I think this is because you're on the East Coast area too. There's some sort of like multiplier or coefficient you have to apply to these too. Because for me, it's still Mercedes. It's always Mercedes. They're always the ones that think the road is theirs, and we're all just driving there too, but we got to move for them. Like
And
they're
see,
the main character.
I don't think I've ever had an issue with a Mercedes on the road, so that's interesting to me. I really don't think I've ever had that issue.
Did I tell the story about the two guys fighting on the side of like the freeway exit? Because that's my last like cop
No, but
story.
let's, yes,
Yeah, I
let's
was
get
just
that.
it's not that good. I didn't pull over or anything, but there's a there's an exit up here in the Columbus area around the Polaris area. So if you're familiar with it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's Polaris Parkway and then kind of the next road that's maybe not even a quarter mile north that ends up running into Polaris Parkway. It's called Gemini Parkway. And the way the exit is set up is if you're on the freeway and you're trying to get off at either one, you have to you either go to Polaris Parkway exit or you kind of go past it underneath Polaris Parkway. And then there's another exit for Gemini Parkway. So it's kind of like a double header kind of thing. And it's a weird sort of like how to get on and off the freeway kind of deal. But in that little stretch where you're off the freeway, you're past Polaris Parkway, but you're going towards Gemini Parkway, there were these. I was making a turn from Polaris Parkway to get north on the freeway, which is involves kind of driving past this little stretch to get to the next light to then keep going.
Mhm.
And down below in that little spot are these two cars pulled over and these two dudes are outside like not really fighting, but kind of like grabbing at each other. One's trying to like use a cell phone and the other one's trying to grab it, and they're kind of grabbing each other's shoulders and tussling a little bit. It kind of looked like a adult male version of play fighting.
Okay.
And I look at this and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, one of these idiots is going to roll into the road and get run over. And some poor schmuck is going to have to like live with the guilt forever. And I felt bad for insert poor schmuck here who might have to go through this. So I think I called 911. I don't think I called the non-emergency number. And 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, these two idiots are fighting on the side of the road between Polaris Park. I literally said these two idiots. And she goes, what? And I'm like, Gemini and Polaris Parkway. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right. There are these two guys like kind of fighting, but kind of not. They're pulled over on the side of the road. She goes, okay, hold on 1 second. And then 17 seconds later, she comes back and she goes, oh yeah, someone's on their way. We've gotten calls about them already. Thank you. Like,
Nice.
took my info and everything, and I never heard from it again. But that was my last, like, idiots.
Fucking people.
Loved it. Loved it. I hope the guy with the smart car lost because I hate smart cars.
All right. Are we ready to talk some Zeus? Are we ready to get into that one now? I feel like we just killed an hour talking about everything other than what we were going to talk
I know.
about.
I was thinking that. I think that we should stop here, make it a next episode kind of thing, because we've already been an hour 10, an hour 15 now. This could take us a whole other hour at least.
Oh, this next one's going to take us probably 3 hours. This is going to be quite the conversation.
Oh, God. Okay, well then we better end episode. Come on back. We will give you the brief primer just to set this up for when you fire up the next episode. There is a group called the Farsight Institute. Farsight, one word. It's exactly how it sounds. Farsight. They are a group of remote viewers who are, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to just say it without any qualifications or any pretext, and you'll get all that in the next episode. They are taking directions from the good extraterrestrials to research different historical artifacts, events, and what would you say, like places, landmarks?
Yeah.
And they are to glean for themselves, ourselves as humans, necessary and important information from these remote viewing instances. And that will inform us of our future upcoming role to play in liberating ourselves from the bad extraterrestrials that are running the Earth as a sort of bio prison. And we are on the cusp within the next couple of decades of becoming free, helping to contribute to the entire galaxy's better well-being, because we have geniuses on a literal galactic level on this Earth just currently imprisoned. And we will be able to remember all of our past lives eventually, because we are literally immortal beings who cannot be killed even by the bad ETs. The downside is that if the bad ETs continue to get their way, we will end up being an unwitting, galaxy-conquering army of multiple billions. So we're going to talk about this soon. See you next time.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. And I got to say, Doug is not only accurate with his description, but he doesn't do them justice. This is super exciting.
I'm so sorry.
This is going to be great.
I'll give you one dad joke before we go, though. You ready?
Go for it. I've only got one as well.
I told my wife she was drawing her eyebrows too high. She looked surprised.
Cute. What's the difference between a Mercedes and a Lexus?
Nothing.
Princess Diana wouldn't be caught dead in a Lexus. Yeah, that was kind of savage.
Good night.
Sorry. That was kind of savage and dark.
Oh my God.
Yep, we went there.
She's not
All
dead.
right.
She's
Thank
just
you guys
somebody
for
else
listening.
now. Good ETs will help her.
Her Isby has been reincarnated and is here somewhere, and the good ETs are going to take care of that Isby.
Tom.
We have a lot to talk about. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this episode. We're immediately going to, I'm going to let Doug take his little pregnant woman bladder to the bathroom first. And then we're going to sit down and record another episode right away so that we've got him in the can and we can just release him. So you won't have to wait long for this, and we promise this will be right back to back.
Yeah, you said can.
I did. Thank you guys for listening. It's good to be back. We missed you. Don't fuck with the snake duck, and we'll be back soon.
Hail Hydra.
Well, Hydra. You'll understand if you follow our Facebook page. Later. Good, I'd go.